You might be wondering, what are you doing back in Elvia Duo? Didn't you say you're done with the place? Yeah, pretty much, but with the winter region pretty much around the corner, let's just say I wanted to min-max my DP as much as possible, and the cheapest way to get more DP is to get the last piece of obsidian black star armor, which means I'm back at Fogans and back at Biraghi. I can already hear you typing, but why? Just go for a fallen god, isn't that better? Well, shut up, you do you, I do me, my gameplay, my hours, my gear. I know it's not optimal, but who cares? So let's start with Fogans and then go into Biraghi, take a look at some updated money per hour numbers and Agris results. First things first, to get you on the same page, since I didn't want to spend here more hours than I had to, for buffs I have the 50% drop rate event which is ongoing, Agris points to burn, then we have the J scrolls, like 5 of them for every hour, and obviously a 10th buff. As many buffs as possible because just why not? For the gear, I spent a couple of hours on Wizard and a couple of hours on Corsair, and this is what Regret looks like. After Gyfins, I thought, I like Wizard, let's reroll to Wizard, and then an hour later, nah, I don't really like Wizard for Elvia that much, let's reroll back to Corsair. Wasted 2 sets of reroll coupons. Regardless, full tier for pets, and let's take a look at some results. This time I don't really have much to point out in terms of how my 5 hours at Fogans went, because it's just standard Elvia Fogans, nothing really much it changed aside from the area being a bit more contested because of the drop rate event, and still decently profitable. Yeah, I sold everything in a bank as always, quite a lot of BMCs despite those dropping in price, but yeah, let's look at Excel. This is the conclusion for today. Out of 4 hours and 49 minutes, on the first one I looked at Blue plus Agris to update that Agris value, and then these are the results for trash per hour, let's say. The J scroll used for extra buffs for every single hour, along with these. The breakdown for the BMCs, quite a lot of them. Weapons, they did spawn quite often. The main reason why I even ran the 10th buff, aside from wanting to get these for the armor, I just wanted to see if I can spawn as many weapons as possible, and the average was about 24 minutes of Elvia weapon per hour, which I would say is very good future proofing when they eventually make those changes for the weapons for Elvia, where in the future you're only gonna be able to have half an hour of weapon max per hour. Other than that, I averaged 15,000 trash, that's my clearing speed, on a yellow loot scroll, and about 450 million silver per hour average after taking the 50 million for a 10th out, so without these it's 500. Almost precisely. The average drop rates, I took some narcs. For Okiaras, it was around 17 per hour with all of those crazy buffs. Blackstones, almost 500 Blackstones per hour. Too bad they are extremely cheap these days, and BMCs about 14 average per hour. And that's pretty much it of what I had to point out for Fogans. The updated result turns out it's still just a good old 400 to 450 million silver. And now for Biraghi, the second area I had to go through to finish the armor. I only spent 3 hours here, and let's just say along with Fogans, that day was not really the best. I can have decent defense and I can feel as safe as I want, but if my internet doesn't want to cooperate, I'm still gonna die like 6 times in a single day. Regardless, coming back to Biraghi, it was interesting to note how this area is pretty much the new Gahaz bandits, especially if you have an Elvia weapon. I leave so much trash behind me, and literally with an Elvia weapon I just one-shot the packs. It gets so fast that I have to extend my rotation past what I normally used to, and I'm curious with tier 5 pets if this area will become decently profitable, because currently it's not really that great. I ended up passively bullying a low level player because I'm definitely over geared for this place. And lastly, the key from the boss, turns out I didn't notice this before. It drops some bags that give you cash silver, that's interesting to know, and also it gives you either one of the narc drops a 3 million item or a seed when you open the key bundle thingy, so that's interesting. The bosses are not as useless as I thought after they were reworked. Aside from that, very chill grinding, and it would be quite interesting maybe to revisit Biraghi with maybe the new class on a seasonal character. I'm curious how Biraghi compares to Sulfur Mines on a character that is, let's say, soft capped with a seasonal gear. At the end of the 3 hours, sounding like a broken record, as always, the loot was stored in the bank, just so you can easily see it. This area seems to drop way less often the black magic crystals, and let's take a look at XL. This is the result for today. Kind of the same-ish buffs, the 10th buff, the event 50% drop rate, but this time I ran out of the J scrolls. I only had it, like one of them for the first hour, then 40% scrolls for the second one, and only a 10% left over for the third one. So a little bit less in terms of rare item drop rate. For a trash per hour, unsurprisingly and kind of disappointingly, it was around 12,000. I kind of expected a bit more, but then again, my pets are pretty much limited. They can only loot so much from the ground, and I don't have human damage crystals. The silver I got from the cash, from the turn-ins, from the bosses, the Elvia weapons, how many I had per hour. Once again, it averaged around 24 minutes of Elvia weapon per hour. So again, pretty future-proofed. If you say in the future after the updates to Elvia, you will be basically capped at 30 minutes per hour, almost 13,000 trash per hour average, and around 350 million silver with an estimation of 1 nail drop in 6 hours. Basically half a nail for my 3-hour session. I didn't actually drop one myself, but I kind of expect people to get one in 5 to 6 hours. If I take it out from the spreadsheet with my actual results, it would be around 316 million silver. Quite bad, I would say. This is again after taking out the 50 million for a 10th buff, so this is your actual profit. Let's just say, I think Sulfur Mines is the same, if not slightly more profitable. I don't know if I should recommend Biraghi anymore, despite this area having really good experience rates. It's funny how I used to love Biraghi. It used to be my favorite spot out of the entire Elvia region, and now it's so unprofitable that you're better off going to Valencia. And now let's talk about Agris before I bid you farewell. Again, I retested Fogans briefly for those 49 minutes, just so I can see if it became a bit more efficient, or just in general if I can pull better efficiency numbers. Turns out, yeah, it was a bit more efficient, most likely because my pets got to loot more, who knows, just, you know, the RNG. About 31,000, this is the only number you really care about. As always, above 100,000 points per hour, so it's really not even possible to grind a full hour on Agris. And for Biraghi, I attempted to grind similar to how I did in Valencia, where I would purposely grind a bit slower to let my pets loot from the ground pretty much like almost every single trash loot. And in that case, if you look at the two Biraghi results, the old one and the new one, the slow, they are pretty much the same for efficiency, about 48,000, which is really bad. So for Biraghi in particular, just if you can, don't use Agris. It's just not good enough. And that's about it. I got my last piece of obsidian armor, I got my new lightstones in the artifacts. It's pretty much all set and ready for the new winter region testing. I will see you next time with orcs for sure, to take another look at what used to be very profitable money per hour before we get into the new region and we get the disappointing numbers. Thank you for watching, I will see you next time. Until then, as always, have a great rest of your day, keep on grinding, and bye bye.